Going live, going live, going live. Hey, let's cook. Let's cook. We're going to do an Asian stir fry, right? So, this is a very simple dish. This should take very little time. Basically, all I'm going to do is I'm going to, I don't even think I have a can opener. So, the only thing that's not a fresh vegetable is this that's in a can. We've talked a little bit about what I call the hierarchy of health. And what I really suggest is you cook the best that you can. Cans have the problem of old cans used to have what is it? PBA. I can't remember. Anyway, there's a chemical that is in the lining in the cans that, when leached out, can cause lots of problems. It can disrupt hormones. It can do all those things. So basically, today we're doing a stir fry. I've got the stove already going. It is over here. I like to use oil. I don't like to use oil. My son is screaming in the background. This is total chaos kitchen. I just got home, right? So I got a few vegetables out. We're going to just kind of prepare those as we go. So basically, we're going to make a sauce out of soy sauce, a little bit of, we're going to use some mirin, which is kind of like rice vinegar, but it has a little bit of wine. It's kind of like a wine. It's fermented rice, I believe, that they make this out of. We also have soy sauce, right? So just regular soy sauce. I don't like most soy sauce because it probably has a little bit too much sodium. But this is what we had on hand, so this is what we're going to use. So basically, we're going to heat up the vegetables. We are going to make a little sauce. It's supposed to be chicken broth, because this recipe was not, look at how so great, man. When I do videos, it's so amazing what a great job I do. So as time goes on, maybe we'll get this better and better, but right now, still learning in the process. So what we're trying to do on this channel is we're trying to teach people how they can make plants taste good, right? So we got a little bit of corn. We're probably going to dump the water out here. Supposed to have some cloves and ginger. Before, I was doing a little bit of prep work, but today my wife had me go with her to a birthday party, and we didn't get home till just before 12. So that is why I dubbed this channel, the subheading is Chaos Kitchen, because it's totally chaos here. Because I'm never in control of my own schedule, but I'm trying to eat healthy. So that is kind of what we're doing on this channel. So anyway, getting back to what we're doing. We're using some vegetables. We're using some ginger. We're using some garlic. So this recipe calls for oil. We're not using oil. This recipe calls for 3 cloves of garlic. This recipe uses butter. I don't use butter on my channel. This is a recipe that my wife used. It does use a little bit of fat. I'm going to suggest that the typical American diet has a little bit too much. I'm going to use 4 cloves of garlic, right? So right. So we're going to use 4 cloves of garlic. I'm just kind of processing these as we go. A lot of times I have some of this prep work done. So we're going to spend some time together. We're going to spend about 30 minutes together, 20 minutes together, somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes together. We may not be done with this recipe. I'm showing you what it takes to do this all the way from scratch. A lot of cooking shows, they're not showing you that part of it. And sometimes I do have some of the prep work done. So today we're going to show you a little bit of the prep work. I'm just taking some garlic, and I'm going to mince that up. Sometimes I have minced garlic. Once again, we talk about the hierarchy of health and your time constraint, right? What do you have time to cook, right? So if you have some veggies on hand, you could do something like this, which isn't going to take a lot of time to prepare. It will take a little bit of time to prepare. I like a nice big flat blade knife. Keep your blades sharp, my brothers. So a lot of times when I'm on the show, some of the errors that I'm finding when I cook is that when I cook, I don't get things to the right time because I'm not paying attention as I'm talking to you. So when I have had issues, it has been because the vegetables or whatever are overdone. Usually the vegetables do okay. It's usually when I'm doing, for example, last week, I think it was, we used noodles. When I made the noodles, what was the mistake that I made? The mistake that I made is I overcooked those. And when noodles are overcooked, they become a big giant clump. And that becomes an issue. We're also going to use a tiny bit of ginger. I can't remember. There was another YouTube channel that I was watching. Guy has a bunch of great time-saving things. And he uses a spoon to peel his ginger. We're not going to use much ginger today. I'm going to get a spoon here. We're going to take that. We're going to just scrape off the skin. And I'm not going to use much ginger in this today. That is definitely a traditional Southeast Asian. There's also Thai cooking uses a lot of a vegetable called gongal, I believe it's called. So I'm going to mince the ginger first. I've got my heated pan in the back. I don't use oil. My wife constantly screams at me because it's black on the bottom. I told her to get me a pan that doesn't have one, or I was going to get it. Didn't happen, so maybe I get screamed at today, but that's all right. That's what life is about, learning how to adjust. Part of it is, how do you control your emotions when somebody else gets mad? Sometimes that is my journey. Maybe I'm just going to use this amount of ginger, right? So we're not going to use a lot of ginger. Just going to kind of mince that a little bit. That is not a mince. I'm sure you know that. So I want that. Watching the back of my hand here, because this is a vegan show, because I'm eating vegan, I'm trying to show you how you can make either side dishes to go with your meat. What I'm going to suggest to you is, I am not a keto person. I am vegan, but I'm going to suggest to you is maybe there is some level of meat that you could put in your diet, but your typical American diet definitely has way too much saturated fat. I don't believe in the carnivore diet. I do believe that a Mediterranean diet can be healthy. I do believe that a traditional Asian diet can be healthy. They eat very little beef. In Japan, they're getting more and more westernized, so they do have a lot of Wagyu beef and different things like that. But I'm going to suggest a plant-centric diet is much more healthy. So most Americans, one of the biggest things, so heart disease is one of the biggest killers in America today. I believe that it has to do with saturated fat. I believe that a higher percentage of Americans have a very high saturated fat diet. Could you eat a little bit of olive oil and be safe? Yes, I think so. But I would suggest that me being vegan is because in the past I ate a lot of crap. I followed a very traditional American diet, and that is part of what my goal is here, is to get you interested in a few vegetables, right? So if I can get you interested in a few vegetables, then I think that is only going to help your health. So I'm going to basically just put this ginger garlic combination all together. I'm going to use a little bit of arrowroot. That is kind of a vegan, poor man's. If you're trying to eat a vegan, eat a little less processed stuff. Arrowroot is something that is still processed. I'm going to suggest that the more unprocessed you can go, the better it is for your health. We sometimes use some noodles. Those are processed. But it doesn't have a lot of additives. One of the things that I'm against is a lot of highly processed, the spray on chemicals that they use for flavor, for all that good stuff. So basically just mincing up a little garlic, a little ginger. here, and we're going to use that in our vegetables. I'm also going to cut these vegetables in front of you. So maybe this is going to take up a whole 20 minutes because, like I said, I'm trying to keep this to a 20-minute show. I can show you what the dish looks like afterward. We're going to get better and better at presentation also on this show. And I think that if you are trying to live a long, healthy life, the more vegetables that you can put into your diet, the better it will be for you in the long term. There's a big controversy. There's kind of, in my mind, the people that follow the keto way, which I do believe in the short term can affect your numbers. But I do believe that for the long term, keeping your saturated levels low will help prevent a lot of the diseases that we're seeing, especially in the West. I'm going to suggest that it has a direct influence on whether you can develop cancer in the future. You can develop heart disease, which is the #1 killer still in America. Wasn't always so. And I would suggest to you that was because in the past, people ate a lot more vegetables, plants, a lot more plants, a lot less highly processed plants because they didn't have all the machinery that they could use to make flour, sugar out of those plants. Some of those things help with flavor, help with taste. There is an interesting research done. I can't remember her name, a female who talks about the palatability of the American diet and how over time we've gotten more and more to where we have a high percentage. If you have palatability is somewhere around 30% of your diet is saturated fat and 0.3 by weight of 0.3% or higher of sodium, salt. So adding salt, I would suggest, is a big influencer on whether or not you have high blood pressure, which is also a very big problem in the United States. High blood pressure is what some people call the silent killer. There's a lot of people on blood pressure medicine. I would suggest that if you could eat a change your diet from high saturated fats to low saturated fats, which means, hey, you're eating a lot more plants. The more plants that are in your diet, the better. So now we are getting into cutting some of the vegetables. The vegetables we're going to put in the pan once we're done. I'm going to get a bowl or a plate here and just put those before I put those in. I'm going to just cut these, especially the onions, thinner. The onions I may put in a little bit earlier than the rest. I like to get my aromatics a little, I like them clear. And it takes a little bit of time to get those clear. So that is the amount of onion that I'm going to use. My wife kind of cut up, we have some bell peppers that are on their way out, but still have some good pieces to them. I am definitely going to use those. I'm going to get a plate over here. I'm going to get a bowl here and we're just going to put all of our veggies in here. Right, I'm going to probably rinse off the baby corn. You might be able to get baby corn whole, but I've never seen it in the U.S. So we're going to add a little bit of baby corn. Once again, I talk about a lot of times with canned vegetables, they're probably not as good as whole vegetables. You run the risk of having some of the chemicals in there that may not be the best for you. Like I said, they've gotten away from, I can't remember the original, was it BPA? Was the chemical phosphate? I think that it is a disruptor of a lot of hormones in especially children. But the more you can stay away from canned goods, the better. But also, there's a time constraint. So once again, we try to cook with a lot of whole vegetables. Sometimes we add some stuff with cans. Beans, a lot of times, it is convenient to have canned beans because they are pre-cooked, right? So you want to be careful with beans because they have lectins. The lectins in the beans are driven out by cooking them in water. That's why traditionally we use dry beans and we cook them in water because we're driving out a lot of the lectins, right? So if you took dry beans and you cook them over high hot heat, you are going to have a lot of lectins. You will get sick. Don't cook them that way. So we may have some issues here. All right, a lot of times, like I said, I've had a lot of this stuff pre-done, so you can kind of see some of the cooking method. We're going to show you what we have done after we've got it done. I've got some carrots here. I'm going to cut up a couple carrots. I'm going to cut up a little broccoli. I'm going to put some snap peas in here, kind of a traditional, what people think of as a trying to do this fast and efficient and talk to you, and I know a lot of times that affects my cooking because as I'm talking and I'm working, that's why a lot of times I have this some of the prep work done. I'm going to cut. A lot of times I'm okay with eating a lot of the parts of the vegetable that a lot of other people are not. So I'm probably going to put the onion and some of the thicker carrots in here. So some of the people don't like the look of that. I think that it's completely healthy. I would eat that. But since I'm cooking this for other people, I am going to cut some of that off. So some people might cut that a little bit smaller. I'm going to cook it just like that. That's why I'm going to put it over the hot heat for longer because I've got a little bit thicker slices of carrot than what a lot of people cut those down to. Some people grate those down. Either way, you get to decide how you like your vegetables. Once again, I'm going to mainly use just a little bit of water, not the vegetable broth that this calls for. Look at that zucchini. That is ugly zucchini, but when you cook it, it's still going to be edible, right? So I've pre-washed these things. This is on the just before it needs to be trashed, I think. So we're going to cut off that part. Once again, more for looks than anything else. It is edible. You can eat that. It's not going to hurt anything. But a lot of people, just for aesthetics, don't want that on there. Once again, the more uniform you can cut something, the better it is. Okay, so I'm going to cut all this down into a little bit smaller pieces because this is kind of a stir fry. We're going to just try to get things tasty with a little bit of high wet heat. It calls for oil. Once again, I'm cooking the hardcore. I'm cooking the hardcore forks over knives, right? So I would suggest that you do have heart disease. This might be a diet that you would consider because you might have way too high of LDL. And I've watched a lot of YouTubers talk about how LDL is not a problem. I'm going to err on what I believe science has shown to be a problem. And the reason why heart disease is the #1 killer. So you get to make up your own thoughts and ideas on that. So another thing about broccoli is it's kind of cool. Sulforaphane. Do you know what sulforaphane is? Sulforaphane is the chemical that is in broccoli. I'm probably going to put the broccoli in for the longest. I am going to save back some of the broccoli. I'm also going to use all of the broccoli, but a lot of people don't eat the stalk. I'm going to cut the stalk very small though, and I'm going to keep that. I'm also going to save some of the broccoli off to the side and add that back in, some of the raw broccoli. So I'm going to use some of the florets as that raw part. So I'm going to probably put the broccoli in because I'm going to cut this as small as I can because I want it to cook through. This takes longer to cook. So I'm probably going to put the broccoli, and I'm going, like I said, I'm using all of it. You don't have to. You can use just the florets, just the top part of the broccoli. I think that's good enough. We got enough vegetables here that this is going to take a little bit of time to cook through. All right, let's cook it up. Cook it up. Oop, oop. All right, I'm going to pour a little bit of water in the pan. This is high heat there. We've got it on a 3. But it is still pretty hot. That's why I wanted my wife to get us a ceramic pan. I also need a spatula here. And get one and I just use stuff like this. All right, here goes. We're going to put the broccoli stuff in first. We're going to put a little bit more water in there. And we're going to just dump everything in. I told you I was going to do the onions first. I lied. We're just going to put this all in. We're going to keep this kind of moving around as we cook. So what do we have in here? We've got some onions. We've got some traditionally, there's probably not that much water in this, so I don't know if we're going to pour some of this water out or if I'm just going to leave it. We're going to see how it cooks. We're going to see how these veggies cook down. We're going to cook that for about 3 minutes. We're going to turn the heat up a little bit on these because we're not really cooking yet. Once again, part of this is about experience. How experienced of a cook you are is how you just go out and you do it. So I would suggest that cooking for yourself can be fun, and more importantly, you can find out flavor profiles that you like the best. I would suggest that you add a lot of plants to your diet. And that's what we're trying to do here is find some flavor profiles that maybe you're interested in, you would like to, you're kind of wanting to try. I love pepper. I'm going to get some pepper. This also calls for some sriracha, which I'm not going to put in because my wife is very anti-heat. She can't handle much heat. So I'm going to just put some pepper, ground pepper. I've read that you should put your ground pepper later in the cooking process. I'm not sure about that. I think you should do both. I love pepper, so you can pepper it before and after, in my opinion. It might affect the flavor. I like to have it kind of sitting on the stuff. This may take more than 3 minutes because I only have this on 3, which is not really high heat. So we've turned the heat up a little bit here. We're also going to put some black garlic, which is just garlic that has been kind of cooked slowly over time. We're going to put some of that in here. because I love the spice. And I think that garlic is one of the healthiest vegetables that is out there for you. Since I've got a lot of spices here, I'm going to just start adding some spices too. Uh, this is just some onion powder, right? Yeah, have enough of that, in my opinion. I'm looking for, I thought I had some arrowroot. I'm not seeing the arrowroot. So maybe we won't use that sauce. I'm just going to use that as kind of a thickener in the sauce as we went. We want these heated through, sure. And right now, this is not cooking down the way that I would like it to. So we may be here for more than 3 minutes just because we added the water to it prior to the cooking, right? So basically, we're going to be just kind of watching these so that they don't get too wet. We're going to go ahead and add our ginger and our garlic. We're going to mix that around. I love these two flavors. I think it's a very Asian taste. You do add, and once again, the more whole plants, the better. Oh, I also have some mushrooms here. I forgot about that. I'm going to use some of these oyster mushrooms and add those. Oyster mushrooms. Have you ever eaten an oyster mushroom? This knife needs to be sharpened. Look at that. Holy smokes. Also going to add a little bit of, I don't even, they look kind of like criminy mushrooms. I'm not sure. Mushrooms will add a lot of moisture to your dish also. So if you're cooking with mushrooms, you definitely want to be aware of that. Let a little bit of this water kind of work its way out. Almost, I like vegetables a little more mushy than some people do. In the South, like when they cook green beans, I like how they cook green beans in the South. They're a little bit less firm than they traditionally are cooked in the North. So maybe I'm not sure about French cuisine, but they definitely cook their verticorts or green beans a little bit less time in the pan, and with that, a lot of times what we're seeing is all right, I think we're going to make our sauce here. We're going to just pour our sauce in there. We're going to add a couple, 3 tablespoons of low sodium soy. This is not low sodium. So once again, if you do have a lot of high blood pressure, I would definitely suggest limit your sodium in your cooking. So I would buy low sodium everything. We're going to also put, this has 2 tablespoons of honey. We're not going to use honey. We're going to use a little bit of this rice vinegar called Mirin. Maybe we'll add some honey to that a little bit. I'm not sure. Some hardcore vegans are anti. They are anti honey because they say it comes from something that has a face. I am not anti honey. I think that if you're going to add a sweetener, honey is one of the best things that you can use. So there's different levels of veganism. I would suggest that veganism has the people that live the longest, I think. Or if you follow the people that are blue zones, what are blue zones? Blue zones are the areas of the world where people they have the highest concentration of people over 100, right? So it's a lot of those people may eat a certain amount of meat, but they definitely don't eat large amounts of beef. Most of those cultures, I would suggest, eat more fish, and even with fish, they're very limited on the amount of fish. Sometimes they don't even eat them with every meal. So I think that for myself, I'm trying to live as long as I can, and part of that is because I was old when I started having kids, and so for me, it's very important that I eat the best that I can. And I think that the biggest thing that's going to help you with longevity is your nutrition. Now, there's some people that would suggest that it also has to do with your activity levels. And I would say that that is true too. So I would suggest that the best activity for you out there is walking. Try to walk more, walk as much as you can. Also, if you want to add some weight bearing exercises, I think that is only for the best. And this one asks for a little bit of cornstarch to thicken things up. I'm going to try to find some arrow roots because that is something that you can definitely thicken stuff up with, especially if you're a vegan. And I have no idea. I'm going to also put a little bit of mustard powder in here, just a tiny bit. I have no idea where my arrow root went because I did use it not that long ago, and I am now not seeing it. I'm also going to try a little bit of white pepper. White pepper is also kind of a Asian flavor. A little bit of mustard. A little bit of white pepper. Stir that around. Once again, I'm not finding my arrowroot. Welcome to Chaos Kitchen. One of the things that we're learning here is Mark is not the most organized at times. So today, like I said, I did not prepare for this one as much as I normally do. I didn't have much of the stuff pre-cut up because that does make it go a little bit faster. Um, so we're not going to use arrowroot today, right? So we are going to use just a tiny bit of cayenne. I don't think my wife can taste that much. That's just a little dash. This is starting to heat up a little bit. I'm going to try to cook down some of this. Because the sauce should be a little bit thicker, I'm going to suggest that arrowroot might be something that you use to thicken up your sauces with, just to try it out, right? So a lot of people use flour to make their gravies, to make their sauces, to thicken them up. And in this case, I'm going to try and find that arrowroot because that would be very helpful in our dish today. Family sugar. Where is the arrowroot? No, it has an arrowroot. You know what I'm also seeing? I'm seeing some Kiko Man black bean sauce. I'm going to throw a tiny bit of that in there because I'm not seeing the arrowroot that I thought that I had in here. It's kind of a thick, saucy stuff. All right, we're going to turn this off. We're going to find some, we're going to put this over buckwheat today, which is kind of weird because my wife wanted it over buckwheat. So traditional Russian Ukrainians, they eat a lot of buckwheat. We did not thicken up this sauce today. That's why we're going to just kind of take the veggies out of the pan here. We're going to try to get that black bean stuff coated on all of them. Our veggies, I think, are ready to go. And we're going to scoop that up over a little bit of buckwheat, see how that goes. I'm going to warm up the buckwheat. I'm going to plate everything. I'm going to show it to you later. You guys have a great day. We will talk soon. Let's eat healthy out there. And what I would like to do is invite anyone who likes to cook to come with me, teach me how to make something from their repertoire, their recipes, right? So somebody who knows how to cook, come in here, teach me how to cook. We're going to do it plant-based and forks over knife. It's hardcore. Have a great day. Talk soon. Bye.